leaving of office or leaving of the campaign, which leaves open so many different questions of who is going next. The world markets are dependent on consistency and knowing what's coming. It's okay to have a general election, that's one thing, but not knowing who the candidates are and not knowing, most importantly, who is running the country. Is it the president of the United States? Is it the vice president of the United States? Is it the first
This is
lady?
wild to
Who is
me.
making these decisions across the board? Who made decisions not to protect their opponents? RFK and Trump from possible assassins. Who's making decisions on the border? Who's making the decisions on the economy? And who's making decisions internationally on things like Israeli protecting of our troops from attack in Yemen? These are all big things. And having that inconsistency of who is in charge and who is not in charge is just not good for the markets. It's not good for politics. It's not good for the election and for the whole process going forward.
Keith, again, this is breaking news. We are processing this as it happens in real time. A lot of conversations happening that we don't know about, but everyone likely scrambling with the big questions as to what happens next. In terms of next steps or in terms of what you particularly are going to be on the lookout for. And I also have to wonder.
What do y'all think happened? What do y'all think happened? I mean, he's 81 years old. You know what I'm saying? And he's trying to run the whole United States. You're in control of the economy, what goes on with that. You're in control of all the different things that has to be held accountable for. At 81 years old, you got to step down, bro. You got to be super sharp and cognitive.
It was a very successful campaign, from the messaging of rolling out your vice president, getting everybody unified, telling the story of a assassination attempt, but then laying out the key messages on the campaign, the terrible withdrawal from Afghanistan, recounting that, talking about what's economically hurting the country and how to fix that, strength of America abroad, how to fix that, and finally, how to make people safer. They drove those messages very well. Anne Hathaway, who ran the convention, Susie Wiles, who runs the campaign, very disciplined, very organized going forward. And where do we go from here is the other side. They may be picking personalities, but they're not going to be able to get their messaging straight of why they're running going forward. And I think it's probably the biggest problem with the Republican side is overconfidence. Something like this can cause you to spike the ball on the 10-yard line and think you haven't won. You just never know in politics, as we saw from the news today. They need to keep focused and drive the contrast of why they're running and what the difference is from their opponent. If they take their eye off the ball and lay up, they'll be at their own peril too. So they need to stay focused going forward. But again, on the other side, complete and utter chaos. This has never happened. When Johnson dropped out in 1968, he just dropped out way before the primary. This wasn't happening right before the convention with 3,800 delegates already chosen and convention planning happening. President Biden has spent tens and tens of millions of dollars on paid media going forward. And looking back on it, that interview with Howard Stern that he did, I think in May, in which he said, I'll debate anywhere, anytime, trying to move the debate up before the convention. It was political suicide that he did on himself, that he should never have been in that position. He should have been in the position of power of incumbency, and I'm not debating my opponent till after the convention. He's the one that made these decisions. He's the one that performed bad, and now he's the one today that is dropping out of the race as a result of poor management of a campaign.
Keith, we do have some more breaking news right here, and I wanted to let you and our viewers know that President Biden has now issued another statement indicating that, quote, today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. So, you and I were just talking about who is going to be the next candidate. It's indicated right here that President Biden has endorsed Kamala Harris.
Ain't
to
no way on
succeed
God's
him,
green earth
coming on the heels of his letter. What
people
do
in
you make of
America
this
is gonna
latest
let the
news?
female be president.
It looks like a hostage video. What are you doing two statements? I mean, if you can't get your act together of making a
Y'all
statement
know
that
it, and I
lays
know
out
it.
clearly what you're trying to say, what a disaster. I'm sitting here 1 block away from the White House, and I'm wondering who's running the country if you can't even get your statements together. I'm in PR. We have a PR agency, and having your statement set and consistent before you go out to the media is the easiest thing to do if done right. This is terrible having two separate statements. It doesn't show confidence in her. It looks like a hostage video that after a further review, we're going to go with a whole different message and a different plan. That is a disaster for her. It's a disaster for him. It doesn't show confidence in her at all. And again, the message is, or the big question is, why is he competent to stay in office? And why isn't he handing the presidency to her? Unless he doesn't have confidence in her. If that's the case, then she should be vice.
I'm gonna say this. I don't care who the president is. I'm not on the red side, the blue side, left wing, right wing. It's all a joke to me. I just know that Biden is too damn old to be the chief commander in chief. We got way too many issues. You got way too many things to be dealing with than to be sitting here trying to figure out how to fix things, how to address things, people pulling you in all different ways. I'm nowhere near close to how old he is, and I have trouble trying to remember all this stuff I have to do. So I can't even imagine what it's like for an 81-year-old. And then on the other side, Trump Trump be wilding out. Want to grab him by the JJ. He's straight gangster with it. So both sides a joke. But there ain't no way on God's green earth, like I said before, that the American people and the world is going to allow a female to be commander-in-chief. That ain't going to happen. So who's going to take his place? Y'all comment down below. Y'all let me know who's going to get in the race. I'm curious to know because, yeah, they ain't going to let no females do it. Y'all know that.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
All right, Keith, as always, thank you for joining us here as we continue to follow this breaking news. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you're just joining us at this hour right here on Live Now from Fox, we continue to follow some breaking news as we have learned that President Biden has now dropped out of the 2024 presidential race just moments ago, endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, saying, quote, "Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." And for more on this and for more perspective, I do want to bring in my colleague, Andy Mack, as we continue right here on Live Now from Fox to follow this breaking news. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So I'm curious for you, as we're all learning these new developments. Dozens of Democratic lawmakers over the past number of weeks have called for President Biden to exit the race following his incredibly weak debate in Atlanta, Georgia, a number of weeks ago. Does anything jump out at you in terms of the timing in all of this, in terms of the method with the letter that he issued, and now on social media saying that he endorses Vice President Harris? And I'm not sure if my colleague Andy, can you hear me, Andy?
Harris has no way of winning. No chance. That's like me trying to go up against
I'm not getting Andy for some
Michael
reason.
Jordan
Andy,
in a
we
game
don't
of
actually
basketball.
hear you, or at least I can't hear you.
When
and
Michael
so
Jordan
we have
was
brought your audio
at his
up again.
prime
We
peak
appreciate you
powers
hopping
with
on. I
Chicago
know this is
Bulls.
breaking news, and this is live, raw, and unfiltered as we continue to work through all of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to recap this breaking news. Hopefully we can fix your audio as you are joining us here on Live Now from Fox to break down this breaking news situation. So we're going to work on that audio issue. In the meantime, meantime, I did want to share the latest information with our viewers right here. And this is a social media picture that President Biden has issued on the social media platform X. And you can see that there is a picture with President Biden alongside Vice President Harris. What you don't see is the message that is attached to this photo. And I do want to read it to you in its entirety. President Biden on X says, quote, "My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year."
So, y'all hear it, man. Joe Biden is officially stepping down. He's taking himself out of the race for the 2024 campaign to be president of the United States for another term. And for good reasons, man. Guy's he's 81 years old. I mean, when he had this debate a few weeks ago here in Atlanta, Georgia area, you could just see it, man. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't cognitive. His speech was slurred. He didn't seem to be on top of things. And if you're running for a presidency, or you're the president of the United States, though, you got way too many hats in the fire to not to be in your top tier shape, your peak powers, because there's just too many things that has to be handled as the president of the United States of America, man. So yeah, here's the his statement right here.
America, as he states, "My fellow Americans," and he does discuss initially all of the progress that he has made and under his presidency. But in the third paragraph, really, it says, quote, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision." And so we continue to follow this breaking news as we continue to fill you in on all of the developments. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing in my colleague, Andy Mack, who is going to continue to... Hold on one second. My producer is speaking to me. Let's hang on for 1 minute.
Yeah, it's over, man. You see it right here. Biden has stepped down. He's no longer running.
So my colleague Andy Mack is going to continue our...
He's stepping down. He's taking the advice from the people that's highly recommended, suggested that he steps down and let somebody else take over. And that's the best move, man. He's just not up to speed anymore. Biden has ran his race. He's done his just due over the time. It's time to go be with your children and your grandchildren and your family. Because, life expectancy is only 77, 76, 78 years old. So him and Trump, they both too damn old to be running the country, to be totally honest with y'all. So yeah, it's a done deal, man. It's over. So y'all comment down below. Let me know what you think, man. Is this a good move? Is this a bad move? What do you think?
And to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of the term. He also posted on social media that he will endorse his vice president, Kamala Harris, as we are now less than 16 weeks out from the November election. So some major news in terms of of this election cycle. It was an interesting one. It was going to be a rematch between Trump and Biden. That no longer the case, as Biden is stepping down amid pressure from his own party after a disastrous debate now more than 2 weeks ago. So this is major breaking news with major historical ramifications. I do want to talk a little bit more about that here on Live Now from Fox and what this means moving forward. Of course, he met recently. That was the NAACP gathering, the National Convention in Las Vegas, just a day before testing positive for COVID-19. So President Joe Biden not seeking re-election in a letter posted on social media saying it's been the greatest honor of my life. Biden's departure capped off weeks of concern about the 81-year-old president's stamina and also mental capabilities and skepticism of his ability to effectively campaign against Trump and govern the country at the same time over another 4 years. Biden's decision also likely raises questions about his ability to fulfill his duties of presidency for the remainder of his term, although he said he will remain on for that. So kind of alluding to the fact that he's staying on for the next 4 or so months. It's the first time a president has dropped out of a re-election run in decades, as memories of President Lyndon Johnson deciding against seeking a second full term back in 1968, although Biden's decision comes months later in the campaign than Johnson's announcement. So we're following this very, very closely here on Live Now from Fox. And like I said, very major news, historical ramifications as well here on Live Now from Fox about all of this. And it's a second straight weekend of major breaking news as Biden now announcing he will, quote, stand down. He drops out of this re-election run. All right, let's bring into the conversation right now for more on this my colleague, my coworker, political specialist, Andrew Kraft. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. And this is major news to learn that he is not going to be on the race, but maybe not too surprising considering the amount of lawmakers from the Democratic side calling on him to step aside in the best interest of the party come election time. What do we make of this bombshell news today?
So, Andy, I guess I'm somewhat surprised that it came in this format, in just a letter penned by the president. Of course, he said he's going to speak to the American people at a later date, but with something of this magnitude and an announcement of this importance, a letter seems to maybe miss the mark of the moment here. This is huge. You noted the historical parallels of Lyndon Baines Johnson there in 1968, not seeking re-election. That was in March of 1968. We're almost in August of 2024. The election is a little over 3 months away, Andy. And so I think it's pretty safe to say that Democrats right now are facing this kind of existential point in time. I've seen the word chaos used a lot to describe this moment in the Democratic Party here. And so I just have to remind the viewers, too, I mean, we've been talking about the possibility that Biden might not seek re-election ever since the debate performance, which was now almost 3.5 weeks ago. Right. And so ever since then, the calls have been coming for him to step aside. I think they were, at last check, about 34 or 35 Democrats on Capitol Hill who have called on him to step aside. But just on Friday, Jen O'Malley Dillon, the Biden campaign manager, appeared on Morning Joe on MSNBC. He said, or she said rather, that Biden is in this to win this. And that's what you were hearing all day Friday, all day Saturday, that Biden is still in. Biden himself put out a statement on Friday saying he's going to get back on the campaign trail coming into this week after he recovers from COVID-19. And then we get this letter today. And so that was the entire kind of scope of this story, Andy. It was on 2 tracks. You had all of the underlying people within the Biden orbit and the Biden White House and the Biden campaign saying Biden is staying in. The course and the path is going forward and is remaining. And then above that, on the other level there, you had so many of these donors, many members in the media, also a lot of Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill, state governors as well, Democratic state governors, saying publicly, 1, that Biden should drop out of the race, and 2, that they don't believe Biden can win in November against Donald Trump. Speaking of Donald Trump, Andy, we do have a post on Truth Social from former President Trump. He said this: "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve, and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement."
All right. So, yeah, that's the breaking news, man. Biden is out. Who's going to go in for him? We shall see what happens. This whole circus show continues on.